Good evening. Yeah, let's stand. Stretch out a little bit before we get going here. Write down your questions or log them in your brain or on your phone as they go through, because I think the more information we can get, the better off we will be. And I'm just so thankful that we have opportunities to bring different organizations in, because when you got to go find that different places, then that makes it a little bit harder. And this is just so much easier to bring someone in, and then we can gather, get the info, and make a difference in our county or wherever we live, right? I'm going to pray because that's how I roll. All right? Father, we just come before you in the name of Jesus, and we thank you for everyone who showed up here tonight. And grow us in this area, grow us in knowledge and understanding in the mighty name of Jesus. So I'm going to hand it over to Ashley, and then you can introduce our guest, and we'll go from there.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ashley. Hi. I'm here to do a overdose response training with Mohana Kakesh. If you want to come on up, Mohana. Sorry, this is my first one. So Mohana's going to kind of lead this and kind of go through the slides in the training and a demonstration on how to use naloxone, how to administer it. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that is, how to administer, the difference between naloxone and Narcan. Common question.
Well, let's get something out of the way. When you hear, who's all heard of Narcan? Okay, who's all heard of naloxone? Okay, so the difference is Narcan is the nose spray. That's very common. We all hear about that. Naloxone is an intramuscular injection. So when we use it, we have to use proper terms because we're it's all about the rules. But Narcan is the nasal spray. That's why it's called Narcan. You probably heard of that on the news. They're going to be putting it in stores. But it's a much more expensive prescription. And they're going to be allowing you to get it with non-prescription as well, costing anywhere from $29 to $100. Naloxone, you can get free anywhere. And we'll go over some of that. And your insurance probably will cover Narcan as well. But we'll talk about some of that later.
And then what was explained to me is Narcan is really just the brand name. Naloxone is the medicine that you're administering all across the board.
Pepsi, Coke, same thing.
Yeah, and this is just a much cheaper, helps us get it distributed a lot easier, cheaper and out to more people because, as you said, the Narcan is relatively expensive.
Yeah.
They're getting into the whole thing of offering it over the counter, but it's going to cost money. So this is just a way to
And then before we get started, I'm going to have Ashley read something. It's called Attitude. Because who here is in recovery? Yeah, okay. I am. Love it.
All right, this is Attitude. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a school, a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past, we are inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the strings we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are all in charge of our attitudes.
And that is attitudes about recovery, about who we are, and how everything affects us. Because we could do a lot of poor me's right now and deal with a lot. But right now, let's talk about how we save lives, becoming community heroes. So here we go. Today's training is hosted by, you guys have heard of, Ashley? Wellness in the Woods, and then it's Recovery in the Woods also. And I'm going to mention something. Monday, Wednesdays, and then Fridays. Mondays is the World of Reentry, and then Wednesdays at 6 p.m. These are 6 p.m. Mondays, and then 5 stages of recovery. And Ashley, you do a lot of that class, right? And then on Fridays, I'm going to say this, from 6 to 8 p.m., I do an all recovery meeting. It's all are welcome. That group is about 10 to 12 people right now. It is a family. It's if you're a peer, if you're somebody in recovery, if it's a family member, And if it's not just from recovery, if you're grieving, if you're dealing with anything, it is a 2-hour meeting, so you can come on and off. But what we do in there is we are saving lives. On May 5th, we're celebrating someone who's been on that part of the group, is 6 months in recovery. So it does happen in this group. It is a very solid foundation for people who need extra support. I'm a certified peer support specialist. Everyone in there is, but I'm also a certified recovery specialist. And we support each other in a very different way. It's a family. So we have people with mental wellness. We have people with all sorts of things. So I just want to mention that. It's free. And you just get on there by a Zoom link. You don't have to worry about a password. So on your way out, grab these sheets and look for these things. And I know the world of reentry is really important. You find out about resources. You find out how you're dealing with things. And then the 5 stages of recovery. It's always good to relearn those things because we're always contemplating what is going on in the world of recovery. It's important to do that. And then I'm going to have Ashley talk about the recovery morning skate event.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to back it up to like this is being presented off the Steve Rumler Hope Network, and we're going to go into how that was formed and kind of founded and what that is based off of. And then again, we're with Wellness in the Woods, him and I, and that's where with Pastor Mary and the Bridge Outreach, we're kind of compiled and bringing this to you tonight. What Muhana was talking about is our virtual peer support network plus sessions in the evenings. So we've got those. We've got all of our resources out in the foyer. During the day, we've got the regular VPSN with peer supports and programmings and things like that. And then we've just branched off and got a contract signed where we have Recovery in the Woods, kind of underneath the Wellness in the Woods. So we have the flyer for Recovery Morning Skate coming up. That had to be rescheduled. I know a lot of you planned to go to that, but we had a snowstorm. So we rescheduled that. That's for May 13th. All the information's in the foyer. There's a couple pamphlets from local treatment centers, a residential, and then an outpatient, just kind of gathering resources for everybody. That's just out there.
And then we'll start in, and I just want to say thank you again for having me back again. This time, we have the technology working. And so we're going to start out with Steve Rumler. I'm also Steve Rumler trainer. I've gone through training, and Ashley has become a trainer. So she's going to be shadowing me, and we're going to be both talking about it. So we can go to the next slide. I'll just put my finger up when the next slide comes up. And so today, it is not, I just want to say this, we can do it as a CEU course. So if any of you guys need credits, let us know. It's a 1 credit for CEUs. Just let us know. And then we're going to get that while we're training, have people sign up. If they did not sign in, we just need to know your name and the county you're from. And if you want to sign up for our emails, that is for data that we need, so we know that where everyone is from for DHS. It's just simple stuff for funding. And this is not a CPR class, but this will remind you to do that. We are going to, today's presentation, you'll learn about the Steve Rumler Network, the opioid crisis on hand. We have a huge crisis on hand about opioids and an opioid overdose and naloxone administration. So this is going to be really important for you guys to learn today. And we'll go into the next slide. Okay, about our network. Next slide. Okay, did you want to read about Steve?
Yeah, I can read about Steve.
And then I'll tell a little bit more at the end of that because I know a little bit more about the Steve, about his namesake.
Okay. So Steve Rumler, our namesake Steve Rumler, he battled in both chronic pain and opioid use disorder. After a severe spinal injury, he developed a dependence to his prescribed pain medications. Despite years of treatment, Steve's life was lost to an accidental overdose on July 1st, 2011. Steve's loved ones created the Steve Rumler Hope Network in his memory.
And so, just a little tidbit of information. His parents are pretty amazing. His first time, we talked about all the different, you guys are going to be here about the different stages when they took people off the pain meds and people are looking for medications elsewhere because some people really do need the pain management. So I will talk about that. But his first time using heroin, he died. So 11 days later, his mom and dad created the Steve Rumler Hope Network in his name. So they took their financial resources and they created this network. Continue. So today you're going to learn about overdose prevention, advocacy, and education. And Steve Rumler Hope provides education to the audience. You'll identify the opioid crisis, how to use the overdose reversal medication, naloxone. The more people are equipped to use the naloxone, the stronger our community is. The safety becomes. Over 20,000 individuals have been trained through our overdose prevention program to date. So that is awesome. That number keeps going up. And so I'm really excited about that. And so we're going to go over statistics. Do you want to start on talking about some of the statistics? And when we talk about this, I might interrupt you and go a little bit with them. So just go ahead, Ashley. Go ahead over the statistics.
Yeah, we'll just go over the national statistics of opioid overdose. Drug overdose is the leading cause of accidental deaths in the U.S. We got a graph over here of, 1 million drug overdoses, 60% plus of opioids between 1999 and 2020.
Ashley, stop.
What?
Someone died already. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
In 2021, there were over 80,000 fatal overdoses involving opioids. That's roughly one person every 6.5 minutes. Since 2000, more than 645,000 Americans have lost their lives to an opioid overdose.
The current opioid crisis has largely occurred in three waves. So 1990s was a prescription, overdose prescription overprescribed. 2010 was heroin. Heroin became a cheaper and more readily available alternative. And you guys, the big crisis we're having right now is synthetic opioids are used to lace illicit drugs. These are substances more likely to cause fatal overdoses and increased rate of overdose deaths. They have become more common. And I am wearing a purple bracelet. His name is Tommy, and I call him Pickles. We lost him to a cocaine overdose, and it wasn't cocaine. It was an overdose that he did one line, and he died because he had fentanyl in it, and he passed away. And this was last month. And although he did save 4 people, his mom did find him. She did give him CPR, kept him alive, and they had to keep him on life support an extra week and a half to keep his organs going. So he did save 4 people with his organs. So he did save other lives. Just want to mention, you guys, put on your things if you want to be an organ donor. I am an organ donor, but life can be taken so quickly, and it was her only son that she had. So it is getting everyone. So that is part of what's going on. So you want to go over the waves that we're talking about?
Yeah, this is just a graph here showing just the rise in opioid death rates involving overdose death rates involving opioids. You know, the any opioids is really high, a stark jump in the other synthetic opioids. This is between 99 and 21. We've got the 4 waves here, the rise in prescription opioid overdose, heroin, synthetic opioid, and then during COVID-19 and the fentanyl contamination.
Yeah, and the fentanyl is hitting everything. So that is and it is not just the people on the streets. It is individuals just like you and me, our mothers, our brothers, our sisters, our kids in school. And the reason I'm adding extra thought process to that, it is also in we're going to talk about the types of medications it is as we go on to this, because it is a big crisis that we have on our hands. Go ahead and next slide. Synthetic opiates continue to drive the rising overdose rates in Minnesota. There were 978 opioid involved overdose deaths in 2021. That's a 44% increase from 2020. 9 out of 10 involved synthetic opioids. Greater Minnesota saw a larger percentage increase in fatal overdose than the metro area. So you can see the different types and synthetic. Look at the skyrocket of that. Any opioid is the green, and then the synthetics, and then you look at the other ones, and there's just nothing. So there is no really any other things that are causing it. Continue. And so, do you want to go over this one?
Yeah, this is on synthetic opioids. If you see here on the right, we've got a little picture here. The potentially lethal doses of heroin, fentanyl, and carfentanil, just that tiny amount. Synthetic opioids are manufactured substances that mimic natural opiates. They're cheaper to produce and much more potent. Fentanyl is the most common. It can be 50 times stronger than heroin. It's used to lace counterfeit pills, cocaine, meth, heroin, and more. I believe they're even lacing marijuana with it now. A fatal dose can be as small as 2 milligrams, and SRHN offers fentanyl test strips to help detect contaminated substances, which Muhana has brought here today.
And so, I'm going to explain this real quickly, and then we will be providing this. So who here has had a chocolate chip cookie? Okay, and who is here when you had a chocolate chip cookie and you bit into it and you did not get a chocolate chip? Okay, so this is what we will be providing free fentanyl test strips today. You get total of 4 of them in there. And what is explained is that when a person has their drugs, they need to mix up the bag, okay? Because what happens is fentanyl gets in there, and it gets in there as a little piece, and it's gathered up. Once you mix it, what happens is you take a test strip, you add a little water to it, and you take a little piece of it, and you test it. The test strip will tell you if it's positive for fentanyl or not. At that moment, you make a choice: do you want to die or not? I'm going to say this: my stepson is up in St. Cloud State, college kid, can't control what they do. They party, and he is in a fraternity, and they have about 4 to 5 parties a year. And so I had a discussion with him about this, and I went up there and did a full training, and the discussion was, well, I'm going to waste drugs, or I'm going to do this. Well, they decided to do a test on their drugs because, oh, we know the person we're getting it from. That's the big statement. Well, that's what Pickles was. Everyone knew him. Oh, we trust him. Well, that's what happened to Pickles is he's dead. And we're going to all know someone, or we probably know someone in this room that has died of an overdose. We know someone who's been hospitalized. We know someone who's been in treatment. So we know, since we're all in recovery, we get this. We understand this. But when talking about mainstream, so they did a test at one of their parties, and it tested positive for fentanyl. They could have all died. And so now what they do is they have a test room before the party, and they test their stuff. And the reason why that is, it's being smart. It's not saying we're approving drugs, because I can't control what they do. I can't be the stepdad that goes, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, because the more I say you can't, the more they're going to say they can. So what it is, it's a prevention to stop someone from dying. I'm happy when I had my days, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't have to worry about dying. I didn't have to worry about having the wrong thing. That is a big difference in the day and time we live. So we live in a very dangerous time. So this gives you good instructions for the people you know. This is what I'm going to explain. So those who are in recovery that have these test strips, that have gotten them, it's not that I give them because I know they're going to do a reuse or anything. It's because I trust them enough to know that they don't need to use that. But what they do is they have that for a safety precaution, that if they know someone or they come across someone, that they know that they're strong enough in their recovery, they're going to say, hey, be smart. And so it is about being smart and letting someone know that they're strong enough in recovery. I have these. I use them all. I supply them all the time. And you know what? I can walk into a house because I've been blessed by God. A miracle happened to me. I've come off meth and everything. And meth used to not have fentanyl in it for me. But I came off, I don't think of it, I don't do anything, but I can walk into a place with another recovery coach. I can go and clean all the paraphernalia, find the drugs, throw it away, do all that, and not have to worry about it. So I've been blessed by God. So when I'm able to do this, that just doesn't mean that I'm providing someone a source to say yes to drugs. I'm providing a source for someone to say, this is a way to be saving someone else's life. And that's what I'm talking about. So afterwards, we will be providing these as well. And I just want to mention, if you guys are in a sober house, it is not to be used for testing urine. It is not to be used for that. It is only used for those who want to be safe. And that's all I'm saying. I will tell you, I have gotten, through the Steve Rumler Home Network, total 5 people's lives have been saved through the overdose training. Doesn't sound like a lot, but 1 life is enough. 2 lives is enough. 3 lives, 4, and when we get to 5, holy cow, it's a miracle. That is God working through each of us, okay? So we're going to go on the next thing. And the next slide. So let's talk about this. I'm going to talk about this for a moment. It's important to remember that crisis affects everyone, but does not affect everyone equally. The opioid crisis disproportionately impacts communities of color. Minnesota has some of the worst disparities of drugs and mortality in the country. Did you know that in Minnesota, we have the worst disparities all over the country? And it's shocking, isn't it? Because they say it's got the best place to live, it's got the best this. So we're going to go to the next slide, please. And Ashley, you want to take over on this?
Yeah, we'll look at the statistics on racial inequity. Here we have a graph of Minnesota drug overdose mortality rates by race. We've got White Minnesotans there at the bottom throughout 2018 to 2021. Black Minnesotans in green and American Indian Minnesotans in blue. Black Minnesotans face 3 times the risk of drug overdose death than white Minnesotans. Indigenous Minnesotans face 10 times the risk of drug overdose death than white Minnesotans.
Now, did you hear that? Actually, I'm going to interrupt you for a sec.
Yep.
10 times the risk. And so I was up in another area, and indigenous people, what's happening is because no one has given them the opportunity. Also, we have taken from them so much. But now it's time for us to realize that what we do impacts them. And it's about creating a safety net. It's about putting our hands out there. Because you know what? You guys are my brothers and sisters, and they are my brothers and sisters. And we need to start remembering that we got to get that diversity out. That we have diversity, but we have to love one another and treat each other respectfully. And so that's one of the big important things. Go ahead and continue, Ashley.
Yes, and then rates of substance use are similar across demographics, but health inequities increase risk of fatal overdose. If we'll move to the next slide, done.
You can continue on this.
Yeah. The effects of racism in America complicate substance use in communities of color, cause broad health inequities, and pose additional risk for fatal overdose. Some can be barriers to health care. Systemic barriers in health services can prevent someone from receiving appropriate treatment for substance use or other health concerns, and lack of culturally responsive services. Representative providers can be an important part of effective treatment, therapy, and care. Increased demographic diversity is needed in these fields.
And what I want to mention is that just think what we used to do to individuals. So medical, people are scared. They're scared to call police. They're scared to call the paramedics. So we have to create a safer environment on that, and that's why there's such big disparities. Continue on. The risk factors are trauma, financial hardship, persistent inequities, and social determinants of health and influence overall well-being are key risk factors for substance use and overdose. Stigma, people of color may encounter additional intergroup and outer group stigmas of their own substance use, which can be a barrier to seeking support or treatment. I'm going to give you an example of stigma. I'm Jordanian, I'm Middle Eastern. There's a huge stigma in my culture. I'm here doing this. I actually got an award for the Steve Rumler Hope Network for being, it was such an honor. I didn't even know what I was getting into. I was blessed and humbled. I invited my father. My father thought it was some type of thing about drugs or something going on, even though it was a gala. In my culture, even though I have a radio show that talks about recovery, all things recovery, it's an exciting thing. There is shame concerning that. So it is shameful for what I do right now. I don't see this as shameful. I see this as a beautiful, enlightening, God-given gift. I think that God is working through me. God works through Ashley. There should be no shame to talk about recovery. So it is saving lives. So that is what we talk about, inner stigma through groups. So that happens through all different types of groups. And that also means that with black groups, we talk about indigenous groups. They don't want to talk about that. They'd rather talk about something else. And so that is a big barrier that happens. And distrust in emergency services may deter people from seeking treatment or seeking emergency assistance in the event of an overdose. That is a big thing right now. So continue on now. Go ahead.
Yes, making an impact. Minnesota non-fatal opioid overdoses, we can see between 2016 and 2021 how much that has increased. In 2021, there were 5,471 emergency room visits for opioid-involved overdoses compared to 978 fatalities. Many more deaths were prevented by individuals getting naloxone and medical care.
And that's an amazing amount of people going to the emergency room, but that does not discuss the people who gave, the kids who gave their parents, and this is what is really happening in mainstream America. It doesn't talk about the kids who've given their mom and dad a naloxone overdose prevention when their parents have overdosed. It doesn't talk about the couples that are in their house doing drugs and then overdose. It doesn't talk about the individuals who are on the streets who overdose and using the kids who do not get to the emergency rooms. So these kids are saving thousands and thousands of lives. But we had, there were 5,400 emergency room visits. Just imagine, we would have had that many more deaths happen. The fact that we've distributed over 20,000 kits, and it's happening more and more. That's the importance of talking about this and doing this. It's because we are saving more lives every day, and it is it is an epidemic, let's be honest. And why are they making such a big deal out of this now? It's because it's hit rural communities, and now it's coming to mainstream. Because before, we knew what was happening, and no one discussed it. So I'll be one of the first to say this, because I'm not shy to say this, because I guess I've learned that I'm a BIPOC in recent times. So culturally sensitive. I don't have to be culturally sensitive. Because of, yeah, it's amen. I can say it, but because it started affecting rural communities, and we started losing kids, and kids are dying, so now we made it into a big deal. And so it's important to talk about this, that we have to be concerned about who it's affecting. And so that's why this naloxone medical care is important. Go on to the next one.
Now we'll get into the naloxone training portion of it, identifying and reversing opioid overdose. We've got these kits here that will demonstrate.
And this is the fun part, you guys. I love this because I've seen other kids, because I ran out for a separate training that I was doing at the college up in St. Cloud State, and I had to bum some from another place. And Steve Rumler Hope Network provides the best kits I've ever seen, and I gotta tell you, they do amazing. So we can go to the next slide real quickly. So today's training, you're gonna recognize the signs of an opioid overdose. What is naloxone? How naloxone works to reverse an opioid overdose, and how to give naloxone to a person who has overdose. Next slide, please. Okay, do you wanna go over what the signs are?
Yeah. So what is an opioid overdose? When someone takes too many opioids, it causes their breathing to slow down. As their breathing becomes slower and more shallow, they become very sleepy and unconscious. Low oxygen levels begin to cause damage to the heart and to the brain. Untreated, the breathing will stop entirely, and eventually the heart will stop.
And that's what it does. It really makes your heart stop. And that's what the opioids do to your brain. And then we hear so many people are using opioids, and what happens to them, they actually make your heart stop. Going to the next slide, please. So here's how a person's vital functions work. Now, next slide, please. This is where naloxone comes in. So person's breathing, they slow down, breathing stops. Naloxone comes in rescue breaths. Right now with COVID, if you're worried about it, we'll talk about that. But it doesn't matter. You still administer naloxone because it's going to make a difference no matter what. Naloxone and then rescue breaths again. Heart will stop. And then heart stops often, naloxone still works. So just listen, naloxone works, okay? And all these stages. Continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, signs and symptoms of an opioid overdose. A person who has taken too many opioids may exhibit any of these symptoms: unconscious or unresponsive and difficult to wake up, slow or shallow breathing, and very small pinpoint pupils that are unresponsive to light.
Okay, slow and shallow breathing. Slow, shallow breathing. Continue on. A person who has taken too many opioids may exhibit these symptoms: struggle to breathe, make gasping sounds, gurgling sounds, slow heartbeat, lower blood pressure, and skin discoloration, lack of oxygen. So skins will vary. My Ashley's lips probably will get blue. Mine will get a little darker. My skin, you poke at it, it may turn white. A person's black, you pull down the lips, you'll notice the lip will change color. It'll turn like white. So we all have different colors. Or a person may change into yellow. Their skin will get yellow. So you will notice a change in color of skin because that means they're losing their oxygen and they're not breathing. Continue.
Yeah, what is naloxone? Naloxone is a medication that has been used for decades to reverse opioid overdose. It acts in the brain to immediately block the effects of the opioid the person has taken, and it lasts about 30 to 90 minutes before it's cleared from the body. So as soon as you encounter the overdose, you want to call 911 immediately, because we'll get into that more, but the naloxone will do the blocking for about 30 to 90 minutes, and you want to have a first responder there as soon as possible.
Yes. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the fun part. I'm going to explain this. So the opioid is the tan color. So naloxone attaches the same receptors as the brain as the opioid, but has a stronger bond. Naloxone knocks the opioid off the receptor and blocks any additional opioid from bonding with the receptors for 30 to 90 minutes. The reversal of this reverses the overdose and can allow a person to breathe again. But what is amazing about this is the opioid will actually bond to the brain once you get the naloxone. Now, we say it lasts for 30 to 90 minutes in your system, okay? But we're going to talk about how much faster you may have to give it, depending how much is in your system of the overdose. What is amazing, when the naloxone kicks in, it literally lifts that, blocks everything, and in receptors of the brain, it's amazing how the brain works, and allows a person to start breathing. Literally, a person, it's just like that. The person will start breathing. It's like a light switch. It's like putting electricity on and turning it off. What it does is it allows a person to start breathing. It removes the opioid way long enough for a person to start functioning again. Go on to the next slide, please.
Naloxone can reverse an overdose caused by opioids like heroin, morphine, hydromorphine or dilaudid, oxycodone, hydrocodone, fentanyl and carfentanil, buprenorphine, codeine, or methadone.
Those are the things that are caused by an overdose by opioids. Next one.
It cannot reverse an overdose caused by non-opioids such as stimulants, cocaine, methamphetamine, Adderall, etc., alcohol, benzodiazepines, anti-anxiety medications like Valium, Ativan, Xanax, Klonopin, etc., or other substances such as xylazine.
Okay, so I'm going to go over this. Although you may not know what an overdose is from, it may still be beneficial to administer naloxone because an overdose has been taken in combination with other drugs. Removing the effects of the opioid could cause a reversal of the overdose. Example, if you drank way too much, you take it oftentimes when people are drunk or where they're out of their minds, they have their medications they have to take for their back pain or something. They think they've taken it, and or they think they haven't taken it, or they'll keep taking it, or they do some other things that they're not smart. This is what I explained to the college kids. That's why they have a pre-testing room before they party, because when they're partying, they make very stupid choices, and their stupid choices leads to death, and that's what's been happening in a lot of campuses. So, and many of us will say, well, I hear about cocaine, I hear about methamphetamine, and all these Adderalls that people are dying from, because that is illicit, that's the laced drugs that you're hearing about. You're hearing about the Valiums or the Ativan or Xanaxes that some kid has taken and has died from, because those are the press pills that you're hearing about. They have fentanyl in them. So these are the drugs that are not considered to be opioids, but that's what you're hearing about that has got the fentanyl in it. Now, the xylazine, that's the new drug that we're hearing about on the street. There's a big problem with it. It's being found. That's what starts eating away at your skin, and you start getting holes in your skin, okay? And that is, you guys, that is really happening. That is happening to people that you don't, people who are on the streets, people who are not on the streets that do not know that this medication that is used for animals is in the drugs. And guess what? Naloxone is not going to hurt you. So if someone, because a lot of people are going to show the same exact signs, and we're going to go over this shortly. You're going to show the same exact signs as like an opioid overdose, because when you drink and you pass out, it's oftentimes the same signs. It's not going to hurt the person. Continue on, please. With any medication, there's a very small chance, 0.01, that someone might have an allergic reaction to naloxone. This may result in a rash, hives, swelling of the face, lips, and throat. The risk of the untreated opioid overdose is much greater than any possible allergic reaction. And of course, you can be calling the first responders, so an EpiPen will be available. They'll just give them an EpiPen, and the first responders will be able to address the allergy-related complications when they arrive, so you don't even have to worry about that. And it's such a minute chance. Someone who's bringing that up to me once has brought that up. I'm like, really? Let's talk about the minute chance that this can happen. And then an EpiPen will be available. Continue on and take the next one, Ashley.
Side effects. What if the person is only sleeping? Naloxone will not cause any harm. If the person is under the influence of another substance, naloxone will cause no harm. If the naloxone is expired, again, naloxone will cause no harm.
And so let's talk about expiration. Because we have to have an expiration due to FDA rules, okay? That you have to have an expiration. Now, I read we've read and we've looked into it up to 30 years, but I'm going to tell you, up to 10 years past, naloxone can be expired. They've done studies on it. But I'm just going to say, expired, do not worry. But when it's expired, it's a reminder, hey, let me take an updated class, let me renew my CPR. It's a good indicator that you should do those things anyways. It's a reminder to get another kit. But it's not going to harm you for the expiration. It does not lose its potency. It may lose just a drop of its potency, but expired naloxone will last.
Next slide, please. There's types of administration. Naloxone can be given in multiple ways. We got pictures over here of the various different types. We talked about the Narcan up there in the corner, the vial of naloxone, the different administrations. Naloxone can be given in multiple ways, injected directly into the muscle, IM injection, the nasal spray, the intranasal atomizer device, the Narcan, or intravenous or IV. That should be done only under the care of medical professionals. While the medication involved is the same, administration steps and cost may vary between types, and that's kind of what we addressed at the very beginning, the difference between naloxone and Narcan and administration.
See that purple one on the bottom? That one actually talks to you and tells you exactly what to do, but it's $3,500. Okay, so so cool, but yes, it's $3,500. The nasal spray, that could be about $100, $125. I will show you how this can convert into a nasal spray. Today, you'll learn a little about that. That's the atomizer device. But we'll go into the next slide, please. Go ahead, Ashley.
Where can I get naloxone? Steve's Law expanded naloxone access in Minnesota. Anyone in Minnesota can carry and use naloxone without a prescription. All pharmacies in the state can and should have naloxone available. Pharmacists can issue a prescription on site. Prescriptions can be third-party issued to a person who is not the person who intends to use it. Many community organizations provide naloxone to the public, and SRHN partners with many sites as naloxone access points, or NAPs. And
I'm going to speak up on this real quickly. Some of you here might have the strong will to do this, because you guys live in a smaller town. Some pharmacies will act like they can't do that. Steve's Law, Minnesota law, is I can go to a pharmacist, or I can even go to my doctor and ask for a prescription, third-party prescription, and go fill it up at the pharmacy, or ask the pharmacist for a prescription. And if the pharmacist says no, I can just say, hey, it's Steve's Law, because it doesn't have to be for me. It could be so I could get an naloxone kit to make sure that someone needs to have one. Because if I run out of a kit, I'll go to a pharmacy and get a kit. And then some of us, our insurance will actually cover a free kit. So oftentimes, if you want to get a nasal one, a Narcan one, our insurance covers it. The whole point is that you should not be getting told, no, you cannot have a script, because Steve's Law protects you on that. Go ahead, next slide, please.
Steve's Law. In 2014, the Minnesota State Legislature passed Steve's Law, Minnesota's naloxone access and Good Samaritan expansion. For naloxone, it allows all first responders, firefighters, police, EMS, and lay people to carry and administer naloxone access. It expands naloxone access through pharmacies and third-party prescriptions, and immunity. Provides civil and criminal immunities when providing assistance for suspected opioid overdose.
And so let's talk about the immunity part real quickly. So if you guys know friends that you're trying to get in recovery and they're not listening, or you know a dealer or someone that you're trying to get into recovery, and you know that they're doing stuff that we just don't want them to do, and they're trying to ignore us, at least let them know this. If something is to happen, if an overdose happens, that they are not going to get in trouble, that they can call 911, get the person help. Don't just leave them like they used to do because they're worried about getting arrested. They're not going to get arrested because what they're doing is getting the person care. It's not about getting them arrested anymore. It's about saving someone's life. And yeah, they can hurry up, put their stuff away, whatever, do whatever. But they're not going to get arrested. It's about saving the person's life. That's what Minnesota Steve's Law has. So it's about the safety of getting someone saved, because we have found people in the car dead. We have found people here and there dead because someone has been too scared to call the cops because they're so worried about getting in trouble. It's just letting people know that, so there's safety nets. so people can actually save someone's life instead of letting them be there to overdose and die. And what a sad way to go, and not having someone there to be with you or support you or at least telling you that you're going to be okay, holding your hand or anything like that. I just can't imagine that. So what I'm saying is that there's protections now. Minnesota is way ahead of a lot of the states. Go ahead, please. Ashley?
And then more on Steve's law, it's civil immunity. An individual administering naloxone faces no civil liability for outcomes of administering the medication. The Good Samaritan protection encourages people to provide the help. There's criminal immunity. Any person experiencing an overdose and the person who calls 911 to seek assistance cannot face charges for use and have limited protection from charges for possession of substances, and cannot have your parole or probation revoked due to activities covered under the above immunity. And then we got more detailed information at that website at the bottom there.
Okay, intramuscular administration, we're going to learn about that. Okay, recall, the signs of symptoms of an opioid overdose. Unconscious, unresponsive. Slow, shallow breathing. Pinpoint pupils, we all know this. Grasping or gurgling sound. You'll hear that. Slow heartbeat, low blood pressure. Skin's going to be cold, discoloration. Point your finger, put your finger on it. Do any of those, check your lips. And then prior to naloxone injections, go ahead, Ashley.
Prior to the naloxone injection, if you think someone may have overdosed, look for the telltale signs. Are they sleepy and can't be woken up? Is their breathing very shallow or stopped? Are their pupils very small? Next, you want to attempt to wake the person by yelling, gentle shaking, and tapping.
Okay, and I'm gonna explain this. Yelling, wake up, wake up. Okay, gently shaking. Nope, I'm gonna do this. Shake, shake. You know, I'm not gonna be shy. And then I will do this. It's up to you, because I do a sternum rub, and I put my fist, and that will get a person going. And my tap isn't gonna be like, wake up. It's tapping, wake up. So 3, go ahead and call 911.
Yep, then you want to call 911, say someone is unresponsive and not breathing, be clear it's a medical emergency, give the location and the exact address if possible. Then you want to open your naloxone kit and take out the items.
And go to the next slide. Okay, so the overdose response kit contains, those are the things, but I'm gonna go over this. It's gonna contain 3 naloxones, which is pretty easy. Here we go.
It's going to contain 3 doses of naloxone of 1 milliliter each.
So I'm gonna let you do that. I'm gonna act like, I'm gonna set this down. I'm gonna act like I'm the nervous person, okay? Because this does really happen. Turn this off. And I'm gonna put this away and set this aside. So this is the amazing part about a kit, okay? I'll keep this just in case I need it.
Do you want me to run through what's in it?
Yeah, go through what's in it, but then,
Okay, again, the kit contains the 3 doses of naloxone. There's 3 intramuscular syringes, 3 alcohol wipes, 2 nitrile gloves, 1 breathing barrier, and 1 instruction card.
Okay, so this is my old one that I've used for training, so hold on. I do have to use a new kit. It's an overdose response kit. This is an old one, so we can use this for other trainings. I've done a lot of trainings, guys. Sometimes I just have to use a new kit. So this is a new kit. Oh my gosh, I have someone who's overdosing. Okay.
Could you do the next slide, please?
Up, stay there.
Oh, you wanna stay there?
Stay there, okay?
Go back.
This is awesome, you guys. You can get 3 of these, and then the barrier, I'm gonna talk about that. So go to the next thing then.
You can talk to the mic so we have it on live stream.
Oh,
You want
okay.
your-
So, can you hear? Okay, yep, oh, okay. And so instruction card for every kit. Now, I'm gonna talk about what's awesome about this instruction card, okay? Because this doesn't do it justice. On this big TV it does, but when you're, doing a slideshow, okay, I'm shaking in the first place. They have a large instruction card in 4 different languages. And it's got little, steps to show you how to do it. And that's what I love about this instruction card. So if you're scared and nervous, you can just read through it and go, oh, are they breathing? Call 911, airway. It just tells you all the things that you need to do. I just love the fact that it's readable. It's not like this tiny print that you're going, oh my gosh, what do I do? So go to the next slide, please. And so this is the other thing I love, you guys. This is like my favorite thing of all of it, because we got COVID, and breathing barrier. It's not going to protect you from COVID. I'm just telling you that. But from like vomit and some other things, and it's got a guideline. It shows you pinch your nose. It's got a mouth thing. It's got a face on here. It's amazing. So it's like stupid smart. It's amazing. Okay, so it's like it tells you. So go ahead and read what that says.
All right, first you're going to provide rescue breaths, and we got some diagrams over here to the right that kind of illustrate that. First, you're going to put on the provided gloves and place the breathing barrier over the person's face, as Mohana just demonstrated. Second, use one hand to gently lift their chin and tilt their head slightly back, as in figure A. Pinch their nose shut and make a tight seal over their mouth with your own. Breathe out into their mouth for 1 second, as in figure B. Provide 2 test breaths, and the chest should rise, not the stomach.
The stomach shouldn't do this. Go out and in, okay? That's no, okay? The chest should come up and down, okay? There's a big difference when you're doing the breathing. You'll notice when the stomach's going out and in, that means just tilt the head a little differently, okay? Usually bring the head, tilt it behind the head, and lift up a little bit. So you'll know, and this is the next slide is going to tell you us. Go ahead. Due to the ongoing concerns around transmission of COVID-19, we recognize that individuals may not feel comfortable administering rescue breaths as at this time. Naloxone alone will still have a positive impact. And
Next slide.
Next slide. Okay, this is the part I'm going to do, and then Ashley will learn why I do this, okay?
Yeah.
So we're going to start out with this, preparing the naloxone. Okay, let's talk about the needles first. Remove the plastic cap, okay? So it's got a pink cap or an orange cap. You remove the top, okay? So let's talk about how you remove the syringe. Ashley, can I have you hold this mic for me, in front of me? Come over here on this side, maybe you can hold the mic.
Okay.
Okay, so you guys are going to see how I unpeel this. When I take the syringe out, I pull it out like this, okay? When I take the needle off, you'll notice I do not twist it, and I always drop it on a flat surface. When I always use a flat surface, and I'm going to use my hand right now, because I am trained at this, do not do this. Flat surface, always pick up, no matter how you do it, never put your finger on the tip, just always use the flat surface, drop, no matter what, you pick up, because after it's been used, the needle, drop it back on, okay? So so take away the take the plastic cap off, straight off, twist. Do not twist because it may remove the needle. Continue the next slide. Okay, so we're going to talk about preparing the naloxone. The vacuum method. This is my favorite method because I am not a nurse. I'm going to be the first one to tell you. So the vacuum method is take about 1 millimeter, let me remove that, and I drop it on a flat surface. Even if I drop it onto the floor, I'll show you what I end up doing when I drop it on the floor after I'm done. So you put it to 1. This is going to be the vacuum method. First of all, I'm going to be very shaky, okay? So you're going to see the second method in a moment. What you do is you put it to 1 on a flat surface, you poke it in, and now you just put the air in, and automatically, already did it. See, that's how good it is. It's already got the liquid in there. Because it automatically, when I put the air in, it automatically filled it up with the, and let me just make sure I say this. Because it's an intramuscular injection, if you have a little air, you're not going to kill the person because this is not going into the vein. And by the way, for all of those who are wondering about a needle, this is a large needle. This needle is not meant for a vein. It's not going to fit into a vein. An intravenous drug user is not looking to be using this as a type of needle. Just throwing this out at you, okay? So then that creates a pressure, and you'll see that it is in there. And so now I'm going to do the second one, okay? Okay, now, second slide, please. Okay, so here's this one. Prepare the naloxone. Keep the tip of the needle below the liquid line. This can be easiest way to see the vial and flip it upside down. Pull a plunger of the syringe to draw all of the medication. Each vial contains 1 dose. Remove the needle from the vial after drawing up the dose. So here it is. Watch this. And this is why I don't do it. Okay. First of all, they want you to put this needle in. So you're already shaking because you have someone in front of you. Okay, now I can't get to the center. Okay, so now, and now you're going to flip it upside down. Then you're going to look where the liquid is and pull the needle down. I'm not a nurse or a doctor who knows how to do this really well. And then get the liquid. And now I didn't get enough, so I have to put the needle even further down. So now I'm pulling more. And now I have all this air, and then I have to put this up because I'm scared I'm going to kill someone. And someone's already in front of me laying down, so you know what I do? I just put the 1 millimeter of air, punch it in, and be done. And so that just makes my world a lot easier, let me tell you. You can choose the way you do it, but I love just pulling the air in, and it fills the needle up. And after we're done, for those of you who want, I'll have a couple things up here for you guys to try out and use. Next slide, please. So, Ashley, go ahead.
Yep. So these are the naloxone injection sites. We've got a couple of diagrams here for the buttocks, thigh, and upper arm. Naloxone should be injected directly into a large muscle. You got the upper arm or deltoid muscle and upper outer thigh muscle are ideal. If these are inaccessible, upper outer buttocks also are an option. This allows the medication to be quickly absorbed into the bloodstream. Next slide.
And let me get my fake arm. Ashley was actually going to allow me to use her arm, but I said no. She really was. Great participant, Ashley. So here it is. I'm going to have you hold that for me. So this is the bone. This is the skin. This is the muscle. So let's talk about this. Like holding at 90 degrees. Anyone shoot darts? Ever play darts? Yeah. So we know we kind of have to push a little pressure. Sometimes the clothes is left because if you can't get, to the skin, it's okay to have clothing. And does it tell you to go through the, okay, yeah. So when doing it, I'm just going to show you. Add a little pressure, okay? Because whoever, if you've had if we've had a vaccine shot for like a flu shot or anything, you notice those are long needles and they put it all the way in. This is a long needle. Put it in, okay? If it hits the bone, lift it up a little bit. It's not gonna hurt the person because they're not really feeling it, right? So, and then just inject. And really, it's not really harm them because the point is we're getting them the liquid, and then the liquid will go in, and that's all we really need to do. It's like doing a dart, 90-degree angle, a little pressure, and then inject. Go through the muscle. It's an intramuscular injection. The buttocks is really good. The shoulder, the arm muscle, the thigh is really good. Just know that, and if you have to do a second injection, we're going to talk about it, okay? You try to do it in a different spot, okay? Next one. Next slide. Okay. This is my favorite part. Once again, everyone, do not touch the end of the needle. Do not touch the needle. I don't care if you know the person, anything like that. We always want to be safe. It's under the chair. Oh, okay, great. See?
Oh, back here.
Oh, watch, you guys. Under the chair. I don't need to grab it. Don't want to do it. Scoop it up. Always scoop it up. Use your 2 fingers to shut the lid. And you know what? We've already called 911. You know what's going to be awesome? Just give it to the first responder. You're done. Next slide. Okay. Ashley, go ahead.
After you've administered the naloxone, step 6, check the person's breathing and provide rescue breaths. 1 breath every 5 seconds for 2 minutes while waiting for the effects of naloxone. And step 7, if there's no improvement in the person's condition after 2 minutes, you should administer another dose of naloxone and repeat the previous steps that he just went through.
And when I'm saying previous steps, literally pull up 1 millimeter, Put it back into the vial. Lift it up. Do another shot. Remember, we're here 30 to 90 minutes. That's how long the naloxone lasts in the system. But if they're not breathing, that means that they may have started to breathe and then they may go right back into overdose. It's because the opioid is still in the system. So if they're not breathing for the first 2 minutes, then give it again. And then the reason you have a third one is now we've already called 911. They're on their way. They've started breathing. They may go back into an overdose state of mind. So that's why you have that.
Do you keep doing CPR after that too?
After they start breathing, no, because they're going to wake up.
No, I mean, when they start breathing, the second one, just keep doing it?
Yeah, I would keep doing it, yeah. Because we want them to breathe. We want them to start breathing. They'll start breathing, yeah. Once you're doing the CPR, that will start helping them breathe. Next one. So we're going to go over naloxone, but I'm going to show you how the one nasal spray works that I have. You can buy one of these online. It's still, you have to remove the needle. You just turn it. And that's how a nasal spray works. That's what a nasal spray does. But you still have to get rid of the needle, put this in there if you're not comfortable. You have to carry one of these in your kit. And you can buy them online. I don't know what they cost. Or you can ask North Memorial or ask a pharmacy if they have an atomizer spray kit. That's what these are. It comes with one. It comes with 2 doses. The problem is that Steve Rumbler Home Network comes with 3 doses because it's intramuscular. All the other ones come with 2 that have a nasal. Let me tell you a story about how someone else that I know saved a life. The person had a nasal spray. He was in my training. Goes, I don't know why I'm going through this training because I did it at a church. By the way, that's what I love about the Bridge Outreach. They allow this training because she understands and she knows that this is God's house because God wants us to save lives and it's so important. And she understands that the recovery is like the most important thing and that God is in our lives for a reason and because He saved us and that she understands saving lives is important. And so I did this at another church and someone said, well, I don't know why I'm learning this, what's the importance of this. And one day he was walking and he had his kit in his backpack. Someone had done the 2 nasal, did not work. By the grace of God, the miracle happened. He ended up saving his life. He had his kit on him. They used 2 more doses. He did the intramuscular, and he called me and said a miracle happened. I didn't believe in this. That was the second call I ever got on a miracle. He told me he saved a life. It changed how he felt, and now he works at a recovery organization helping people, individuals in overdose, and he's outreaching, helping people in that area. So that's God working through people. That's amen, yes. So now we're going to talk about the nasal spray applicator. And Ashley, go ahead and go over that.
Okay. Nasal applicator administration.
Yep.
Next slide. So these are the 3 different models, right?
Yep.
Of the
same
nasal
model.
spray that you can
Oh,
get.
yeah.
Narcan, Clexato.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Yeah. Narcan is a well-known nasal naloxone product, but other products using the same applicator are now available. Next slide. Prior to nasal administration, again, attempt to wake the person up, yelling, gentle shaking, and tapping. Call 911. Open up the kit and take out the items. Put on the gloves. Provide 2 rescue breaths using the breathing mask. Next slide. And administer nasal naloxone. There we have an illustration of the plunger, the nozzle, kind of what it looks like, how you're going to hold it in your hand. Step 1, lay the person on their back and remove the first dose of nasal naloxone from the package. Step 2, hold the nasal spray with your first and middle fingers on either side of the nozzle, being careful not to push the plunger. Next slide. Step 3, gently insert the tip of the nozzle into a nostril until your fingers on either side of the nozzle are against the bottom of the person's nose. Step 4 is use your thumb to firmly press down the plunger and spray the medication into the nostril. Each applicator contains 1 dose. Step 5, remove the used applicator from the nostril after giving the dose. Step 6, check the person's breathing and provide rescue breaths. 1 breath every 5 seconds for 2 minutes while waiting for the effects of the naloxone. Step 7, if there's no improvement in the person's condition after 2 minutes, you should administer another dose of naloxone. Repeat the previous steps and alternate nostrils between doses. Wait for help to arrive. If and when the person wakes up, do not leave. Help them to get into the recovery position if possible. And there we have an illustration of what the recovery position looks like. The hands supporting the head, the knee propped over, and it stops the body from rolling onto the stomach.
And why do we have it this view? You can do it on the other side as well, but why do we have it on this side? Because it's closest to the heart. It allows you to breathe easier. So that is why we have that breathing position there.
It's very important to stay with the person until help arrives. When the naloxone wears off after about 30 to 90 minutes, the individual can slip back into an overdose. You will need to administer additional doses of naloxone if this occurs before medical assistance arrives.
So that's why when you do the 911 call, say I have someone that's not responsive, okay? Next slide, please. Go ahead.
How might someone react? It's hard to know how a person will react when revived from an opioid overdose. Many factors can influence their behavior, including opioid withdrawal. Naloxone induces temporary but immediate withdrawal. The symptoms can include nausea, sweating, disorientation, and body aches. It's often misunderstood as side effects of naloxone. Other substances, naloxone only counteracts opioids in the body. Other substances may remain active. Individuals who have taken other sedatives, including xylazine, may begin breathing but not regain consciousness. The emotional response. Individuals revived from an overdose may be fearful, sad, frustrated, embarrassed, or confused.
And so I'm going to ask, you don't have to answer. Has anyone gotten an overdose in here before and been saved by naloxone? Thank you guys for your honesty. When you've woken up, you've been dizzy, been off, maybe come out of withdrawal. So it is scary to have someone be there, just be in support. And I'm just going to throw this because we're going to talk about some of the things to do. Me as a recovery coach, as a certified peer support specialist, you do not want to hear that you need recovery. You do not want to hear you need treatment. What you need to hear is you are loved. I'm going to stay with you through the process. I'm here for you. I care about you. I'll tell you that I'm in long-term recovery, but I'm not going to be pushing that because that's the last thing you want to hear. Am I correct about that? So just be you. Love the person for who they are. Don't feel like you have to do anything extra. I know we're going to talk about this, that talks about treatment and stuff, but that's if a person really doesn't know what they're doing. I know what I'm doing. I know I'm a supportive person. Just be you when giving that type of support. Just be the loving person that you are, and if you know nothing else, just stay there with them and just give them support and say, I'm here for you. Because that person is going to be scared. They're going to be terrified, especially for a person who's never overdosed and was not expecting to use a drug that causes an overdose. They are going to be petrified. And so that person is probably a person who is not a person who's looking to get treatment because they are not used to using drugs. It could be a person who's taking a pill. It could be a person who is using a stimulant, who's overdosed on fentanyl or something. That's what I'm talking about. So it's a very different type of way of doing it. I just want to mention that because that takes a person, so someone who does go in the hospital, they at least remember someone was kind, someone said, hey, I'm in recovery, I've been there, I get it, I'm here for you, but I'm not pushing that they need something. They're going to remember, oh, there was that guy that was in recovery and he was really good to me, or that gal that was in recovery that was really good to me. Oh, recovery means this to me now. Instead of being a person that's saying, you need this, you need that, because the second someone says you need that, the wall is up and the person doesn't want to get recovery. Go on to the next slide, please. Go ahead.
How might someone react? None of these possible reactions should prevent you from administering naloxone to someone in need. If someone is experiencing an opioid overdose, getting naloxone is their best chance to survive. If and when you feel comfortable doing so, encourage the individual to seek further help or treatment for their substance use. Next slide. Scene safety. Be aware of your surroundings. Avoid any tools, pipes, needles, etc., or substances on the scene. Stay alert to other potential hazards like street traffic. Use your protective items included in your naloxone kits when administering rescue breaths and naloxone. Avoid touching your mouth, nose, or eyes, and wash your hands after. Once EMS arrives, allow them to take over assisting the individual. Exit the immediate scene and answer any questions that first responders may have. Prioritize your safety. If anything is making you feel unsafe, remove yourself from the situation and wait for EMS to arrive.
So if you're gathered by people and you're in the cities or something is happening and you feel uncomfortable, step away, wait till EMS comes, because sometimes people get in big circles, or if someone's being belligerent, then I'm going to explain something. Alcohol packets, they used to talk about how you got to wipe the wound and get, wipe the area. Okay, I just say just jab them. That's what I said when I got my award. Just jab them, okay? But you know what I do with the alcohol wipes afterwards? I use them to clean my hands. That's what I use them for. It's because cleaning the area, because I'm going to do it probably through the clothes, because I'm just going to say, this is my opinion. This is not what they train. My opinion is, I'm going to find an area. If they have a short sleeve on, it's different, because now summer's coming. But in the winter times, I'm going to find pants, I'm going to find a shoulder, and I'm going to give the injection, or the buttocks, okay? I'm not going to find a way to sit there and wipe the area and do all this extra time. It's about getting the injection in the person, okay, saving their life. But what I do is I use these 3 alcohol wipes, because they do offer them, because we do have to do medical policies and do things, because we are being professionals. But I am going to use them as a hand wipe, okay? And that is the way to do that. Just so you know that. And just make sure you're doing things safely. And remember, you're protected. If someone is to pass away on you through this, you have done everything you can. Just remember that. If you are worried about something happening, you're not going to get in trouble. If a person has done other medications, you're not going to get in trouble. But it could save their life, because if they're overdosed on opioid of some sort, it could prevent them from going overdose on alcohol poisoning or other things. So just be aware of all these things. And remember Steve's Law. And I knew that the FDA approved recently that they can go on the medical shelves. Just so you know this, in some states, to carry fentanyl test strips, to carry a kit on you is considered to be paraphernalia. Minnesota is way ahead of the stage, and that's because the Steve from the Hope Network has made it possible for us, so we can continue to save lives, because it's not about having drugs on you or about having paraphernalia. It's about saving lives. It's about rescuing people from dying, and that's what we're here to do. And I call you becoming community heroes. Next slide, please.
Actually, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
About that, the Steve's Law thing, and how you can't get in trouble, and the paraphernalia thing. If you have a kit that's the intramuscular injectable or whatever, can you get in trouble for possessing the syringes that go with it?
No.
Because they're independent and they're not in one giant package, is my question.
No, you're not going to get in trouble for the syringes. No, none of that, because they're not. It's not. You have the kit. You're not going to get in trouble for any of that, because those syringes you're not going to be using for intramuscular veins or anything, and they know that. Okay.
But right now, can you get in trouble for having the Narcan versus the naloxone? Because when me and Ashley were at the Isani opiate settlement committee, we were told that it was against the law if you had, I can't remember if it was the Narcan or naloxone.
Yeah. So what Katrina was mentioning, and we'll get that for the live stream too, is we went to a meeting of sorts for the community to talk about an opioid settlement. And so we had a leader say that it was considered paraphernalia or whatnot. I checked into that with Maddie, the leader. That is not true.
No, it's not true at all.
Not true. He was misinformed. You cannot get in trouble. And
Not at all.
even if they were to say that you needed a prescription, it is actually covered under
The law.
a cloud of prescription
Yeah.
under Steve Rumler Help Network. There is. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And say you can. And if it's was it a leader or someone?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, well, then you just say, you know what, we can find someone else, or, contact Steve's Law, or contact Steve from the Hope Network, contact some, I know a trainer, you find out someone, other person, and say you've been misinformed. And say, you know what, I know the rule, I know the laws on this, and say this is what's important, because in the state of Minnesota, we're here to, we're here to do overdose response, we're here to save lives.
And I can tell you this, since you've been here, from the last training, there was 2 lives that was saved out of these kids.
That's incredible.
That is, and that's God working this place here. Even though we didn't have everything working, amen, that's amazing that we saved 2 lives in this community here. And we're here to continue saving lives. And when we're saving lives in the community, it doesn't mean that something's wrong with the community. It means we're doing something right in the community. And amen, we're doing something right. And I just want to say that's really important to, and then let's talk about disposal, you guys. Just give them the EMS. But use a detergent, tied or anything, put them in there, the needles, like a detergent bottle. Or you can go to your pharmacy. Do not use a glass container. You can do a mail-in service, or you can take them to the sheriff's office, be smile and say, "Hey, I get to drop off needles." I'm just saying that. Give it to first responders. When I got pulled over, I had a whole thing of stuff, and I'm like, oh, I don't have to worry about anything anymore. I may have gotten a speeding ticket, but I didn't have to worry about anything. And I was so proud of that. At first, I was sweating, and I'm like, because I got a name Mahana, it's a little different. But then I'm like, oh, I got another one. Oh, yeah, I got all this. Oh, yeah, I train overdose prevention. And he looked at me like, okay, he couldn't say anything. I was just so happy. I was so proud. Smaller town, hey, man, yeah. So naloxone is a non-toxic. It may be thrown out in household trash. Small components and vials and applicators may be a choking hazard for children and pets. So just give them to your first responder.
Next slide.
You said that right on time. Go ahead, Ashley.
Naloxone storage. Naloxone keeps best at room temperature. Extreme temperatures, both hot and cold, should be avoided. Kits should be stored away from direct sunlight. SRHN kits are packed in UV-resistant bags, but it's still best to keep them away from direct light. Naloxone has an FDA-required expiration date of 2 to 3 years, and reach out to SRHN for a replacement kit.
And then see on the here it is.
Yep.
You'll see the expiration dates.
That's where you'll find the expiration dates on the vials, and then on the Narcan nasal spray. It's listed on every one. Next slide. If you need more naloxone, SRHN partners with community organizations, clinics, and businesses as naloxone access points, or NAPs, where anyone can get naloxone. You can find your nearest NAP at this website, rumlerhope.org/NAP. It can be requested at most pharmacies and is commonly covered by insurance.
You also see signs on independent business stores, like in downtown Aurora, we've got a couple of places downstairs, along our main strip, that have those signs right in their windows, and like they're some clear communications company or whatever.
Oh, okay, cool.
They have those, and it's a heads up, like you can come here and it's good.
Next slide. If you need more fentanyl test strips, the Steve Rumler Hope Network offers fentanyl test strips, FTS kits, through our ODP program and NAP partners. These kits each contain 4 strips that can be used to detect the presence of synthetic opioids and other substances. You can find more information at rumlerhope.org/FTS. Next slide. And support the network. You can volunteer with the Steve Rumler Hope Network. We're always accepting volunteers to help us assemble naloxone kits, assist with events, and advocate for naloxone in our communities. As a nonprofit, SRHN is appreciative of any donations to help us continue our critical work. And then there's a site there if you would.
And a great place to donate to, by the way.
Donate by cash, check, or online to rumlerhope.org/donate. Next slide.
Summary, naloxone is a life-saving medication and is important tool for public health. Steve Law offers both civil and criminal immunities for overdose response situations. Naloxone can be carried and used without a prescription in Minnesota. Just a reminder, you can tell that to anyone. People in Minnesota can get a no-cost intramuscular naloxone from Steve Rumler Hope Network for any of our partners, NAP sites. Narcan, the nasal one, can be purchased at most pharmacies in the state, often covered by insurance. And you can revisit instructions and videos detailing naloxone administration on the Steve Rumler Hope Network website. And can you zoom in at that for those who are listening? Today's training was facilitated, by Mahana and Ashley and my community trainer partner with Steve Rumler Hope Network. Please complete your survey. Provide a contact information if you're interested. A certificate of completion, a free intramuscular naloxone can be sent to you. Updates about Steve Rumler Hope Network. If you scan that, and then are they able to communicate by chat or something online?
On the channel.
Just put your name and county if you want. Also, just your first name, so we can track that as well as who participated and watching as well. And if they want to get a kit mailed to them, that way we can get a kit mailed to them at no cost from Steve Rumler. And then just to make sure everyone knows, if they've filled out the sheet that says your name and county. That's what's really important. And then any of the ones in the back, also, everyone here, it's important to do that. And then, do we have any questions?
Anybody have any questions? I'll run the mic to you and we can get it on live stream. Oh, just a second. I'll get her and you can answer.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you guys were talking about different forms of naloxone and Narcan and the different routes of injection. Is there one that, or of consumption or whatever, is there one that's known to be more effective than others? Like, is the nasal spray more effective than
They
the
say they're pretty-
intramuscular, or?
They're pretty. The nasal spray works just as easily going in the back, but the intramuscular you get three vials versus the 2.
Okay, but one doesn't work faster, or?
No, they're about equal time, but because the one goes in the membranes in the back, so it's absorbed just as fast. But the difference is the intramuscular you get an extra vial.
And pretty much with it, whatever route you're going to take, whether it's the intramuscular or the Narcan, you're administering the same medication. So
It's the same
strain,
medication, yeah.
Same effects, yeah. Any? Then I'll get you, Miss Bonnie.
Okay, so if you store them in your car, does that mean that they're no good after?
Okay, so I'm explaining how to. This is how I store in my car. Okay, so I don't use my glove box. Okay, I have a center console. So my center console is protected, okay? Because you don't want them to freeze, you don't want them to get too hot, and you don't want them to be in direct sunlight. Well, they do have UV protection. So I have tested mine in the middle of the winter, and I have tested mine in the summertime. And mine doesn't get hot, and mine doesn't get frozen. So that's the difference. I've actually never taken a kit and put it in my glove box to see if it actually freezes. So I don't know if it really freezes. But I don't believe you should be doing that because it can affect them. But I don't really think it's going to harm it. Still use it. Don't not use it. If you end up doing that, do not use it. Use it because it's still going to save and it's still going to have the effects. But they recommend storing it put it in your purse. Have it in your purse. I have mine. I have a briefcase. I have my center console. I have a backpack. I have a kit and all my stuff. And I know you guys have. I know some of you guys have those big bags. You know, drop a kit in your big bag.
Okay, if somebody that doesn't need it gets a shot, I mean, if somebody's having a diabetic attack, it's almost like they're having a drug overdose. So if you give them the Narcan, is that going to hurt them?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
It will not hurt them at all. Because and so let me just give you an example. Did you know, let's talk about elders real quickly. Nursing homes, you know there's opioid crisis in nursing homes? It's a big problem. Elders are using that because they're wanting to overdose, or they're taking pills and not taking them responsible. They set them aside. It is a bigger problem than we know. So they actually have, I've done a couple trainings, and I supply them with overdose kits. So it's more known than we know. I know a priest who's has overdose kits for himself. So you'd be shocked. It does not discriminate. It does not discriminate. It's shocking.
Do we have any other questions? Oh.
Some people report having to do more than one shot. What's your indicator of that? You may have covered it when I went downstairs.
Some people have to report doing more. So when they do a second shot, it's because the first 2 minutes it didn't work. Then they do another shot. And then the third shot is, hopefully you don't have to do that, but the third shot is when they don't wake up again, or they wake up and they go back into the overdose. That's why the ambulance should be called, 911. Some people have had 10, 12, 13 shots given to come out of it, especially being at a hospital or something. They've given intravenous or continue to give them. I believe I've heard, don't quote me on this, but I've heard 16 or 17 times that someone has been given naloxone to get through an overdose and have lived.
Just for clarification, can you go into, if you administer your first dose of naloxone and it doesn't work, how are you going to recognize it hasn't worked, that you need the second injection?
Because the person's not waking up, the person's not responding, the person's not breathing. Because you're still administering breathing,
the rescue breaths with it.
Yep, and you administer the naloxone, and they haven't woken up. They haven't started breathing. You haven't heard anything. You haven't like seen the person like respond. That means the opioid is so strong because it's probably, let's say it's a fentanyl. Fentanyl is working really heavily in a person because let's say it's a person who's a non-drug user. Okay, so this is what happened to the last person. He was a non-drug user, used a stimulant, so his body's not used to an opioid. So a person who's used to opioid can usually handle something stronger. But a person who's a non-opioid user went down really fast, and his body was not used to it, so his body needed more than one time, but it goes so heavily, that's why you need to use more than one, depending on the amount of opioid. Our body, example, if I was to use a large amount of opioids right now, my body couldn't handle it. I would have to use another kit because I won't come back because it's not in my system to normally understand how to use that. So people react differently to opioid overdose. So then if they, let's say the second time they start, let's say I start breathing again, okay? And then I go back and be unconscious or I stop breathing again, you administer another naloxone.
Any other questions? Over here.
And just remember, don't be scared. When that's happening, you'll know. Because when you administer the breathing breaths and then, or they start breathing, you'll know that they're breathing.
What was it? Oh. Oh, go ahead.
If you're like allergic to the Narcan, will it still reverse the overdose?
Oh yeah, reverse overdose and you're allergic to it, we'll just give you an EpiPen on top of that.
Oh, beautiful. Good question, Jessa.
Yeah, because if you're allergic to it, it's going to do the overdose reversal. And that's an awesome question, by the way.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
Is there a time frame that's best suited for like administering it? Like, is there like a too late, it's not gonna work?
Never.
Timeframe?
Okay, I'm going to explain. It's never too late. And so when the first responders come, so let me give you an example, okay? So Pickles, that passed away, they gave him naloxone. It did the reversal. He was dead. Well, his mom gave him CPR. He continued to live, example, okay? But the naloxone didn't change anything, but we were able to donate his organs to save 4 other lives. So the reversal happened, but the breathing in the brain didn't. So it's that process, but it's never too late to give an, because you don't know how long the person's been out. So you find him on the street or you find him slumped over, you do the process because we don't know how long that person's been out, so we're saving that person's life. So that's why there's that law that protects you, because it's the Good Samaritan law. You're not gonna get in trouble that you've done your best efforts. And so oftentimes you're gonna call 911 right away. So when you do that, they're already on their way. So they will take over from that. And when the person breathes or reacts, usually you'll get some type of reaction. You'll know. Because you'll know the skin is blue, you'll hear some gargling, you'll hear some noise, and you'll know.
Thank you.
Really good questions tonight. I'm really impressed. Any other questions? And then give Ashley a hand for doing this and setting this up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohana.
Yes. And then thank Pastor here. She's been amazing with doing this, saving
Yes.
lives. And then let's thank God for being here with us and on us. Yes, amen. And then we'll do some, if you guys want to come up here and test that, or I don't know what time is like, it's 8:23. I'll get you guys a kit, a fentanyl test strips. And did you want to do a prayer to let everyone go or something, Pastor? Let's do the kits, okay? Yeah, we've been here a while, you guys.